I mean, although I, love the books about the power of now and, all these different trainings, I never really understood it.
Mm.
And some of the techniques that people teach, I didn't really follow or didn't listen because their dominant Claire was different from my dominant Claire.
Oh.
Okay.
So for people that their feeling is their dominant gift, this is the easiest way. However, there is something that is not included in the book that I did in a workshop where I call, stillness on steroids or stillness on steroids. So what you're doing is training your mind to pay attention to what it is you want your mind to pay attention to, as opposed to the plethora of a million other thoughts that it could potentially have. Because it's actually pretty challenging to think two things at once. It really is. But if you're focused on where's the energy in my body and just curious, where is it? Where is it now? Where is it now? Where is it now? Where is it now? And your mind is doing that, it's amazing how calm and quiet it could be.
Hello, everybody. Welcome again to Lane and Lani, all the things with Lane and Lani, and it's the second year of this, and I still have not nailed that down yet, but
we'll get there.
We'll get there. This is the technically the second episode of the season, this second season. So we're going to start it off right with something positive and new for everybody. Many of our podcasts have touched on the subject or have had multiple minutes about us describing to you about positive thinking. Moreover, thinking and speaking of what we'd like to see happen in our future, what we want to do for ourselves, health, etc. We've told the story about Lani asking the universe to give her a sign of a heart and to let her know that everything was going to be all right. Since that time, she has countless hearts have appeared everywhere around her. They seem to appear right at the same time she's about to have a spiral of negative thoughts. I've recounted my story of asking the universe to show me a sign of faith by giving me a $20 bill with the bottom left corner torn off. And that has happened. So on the podcast today, we've invited a doctor of this philosophy, otherwise known as manifesting, on to help to explain, to define this practice with us. Dr. Karen Kan is a doctor of light medicine, a #1 international best-selling author, a visionary, and a pioneer in the fields of healing, consciousness, and spirituality. So let us dig into the power of and behind manifesting and healing. Please welcome to the podcast, Dr. Karen Kan.
Hello, Lane and Lani. So great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Like I said, we've talked about these things so many different times, and based on what you've heard just now, are we using the power of manifesting correctly?
Yes, I mean, you're getting results. And I think that synchronicity, like a lot of people talk about the signs of synchronicity, people don't even know they can ask for those signs, right? And you guys just demonstrated that beautifully. And I love following synchronicities because it shows me that I'm on the right path. Just, keep doing what I'm doing, being what I'm being, I suppose, is one of my ways of describing it. And then these synchronicities will show up. And in your case, you actually ask specifically for certain signs. And I just, love that you're doing that. That is fantastic.
Thank you.
I'll say we got that idea from the book The Secret, which I'm sure you've probably read. But it said you can ask the universe anything, and then it shared the story of a guy that said, well, okay, I'll try this out, and he wished for or asked the universe to show him a sign, and he said, I want to see a feather that looks like this weird thing that he had developed in his mind. And he said a couple of months went by, he didn't see anything. Then he was in New York, and this feather blew underneath his feet, and there it was. A feather unlike any other feather known in the world had just blown under his foot. So, that's what sparked us to both try that out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fantastic. Keep going.
Yeah, we're trying. We are trying. I know we've got friends and family members, I think, that probably think we're crazy and don't believe in it the way that
Likewise.
we do. I was going to ask, do you come across that too?
I think there's so many of us in this space that do. And I think before, when I was really, first started out with The Secret and reading all the books and getting into like all the authors of The Secret, and I thought, this is fantastic. And I was like telling my friends and family about it. And my family was like, that's nice.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, I mentioned to my brother, I said, oh my gosh, you love doing online stuff. You could make a whole business, out of the stuff that you love to do online instead of working at this job that you really hate. And he's like, well, when you've made $1 million, then come talk to me. And he had a point, right? For them, it was just theory.
Yes.
It was just theory. I was all excited, and I tend to get all excited about something new and sharing this. And at the end of the day, I didn't have any proof for them. Not that even if I did have proof that they would necessarily do it, but I mean, I wasn't believable in that space. So I think it's really common. And I think it's also, what's really interesting is it's one of these obstacles that we go through to actually manifest what it is we want. Like the universe actually shows us that contrast. I call them abundance challenges.
Okay.
And they can look in many different ways. It could be a job loss. It could be a colleague, that thinks you're nuts, or it could be anything, that the way we respond to these challenges actually help us with either manifesting more of what we want or less of what we want. That's my experience anyway.
As I say, I think the whole idea is the power of positive thinking. And for us, especially in the last episode, we really pushed it, is that if you think a negative thought, that will manifest itself as well. So, we got on the discussion this morning about, the big C word. I think you call it the big C. And
there's two big C's. one that's treated with chemo, and the other,
Yes. And then the phrase jibby jabby, and I love those two phrases by you. It's a way
I got that from someone else. I don't take any credit for that.
There are two ways not to get your material canceled or rejected on the internet. But we got on that discussion, and I thought I was going to ask you: is there a way that people kind of call about sicknesses to themselves?
That's a really great question, and I think being a medical doctor, it's multifaceted. Now that we've been exploring in the past, let's just put it this way, I really kind of thought it was black and white. I thought, okay, well, if you didn't treat your body well, too bad, you really did this for yourself, and now you got to fix yourself. Okay, now I'm not saying that isn't partially correct in a way, but if you can feel it, it feels like self-blame, right?
Right.
It doesn't feel good. And what I've come to find out, at least in my own experience and those that, that I coach and teach, is that it's less about thinking per se and more about being or feeling. So in other words, they say we have what was the stat, like 80,000 thoughts a day or something, or 40,000 something, and there's like 80% the same thought over and over again, right? I don't know how they even figured that out in the scientific experiment, but if that's even true, thoughts happen. So it's not like I think, okay, now it's time to think a negative thought. Okay. And then, but just thoughts happen. And I think some of it has to do with this, we're connected to some degree energetically, if you will, to everyone on the planet and probably beyond. So if the collective is going through fear, if the collective is going through angst and lack of, self-love and things like that, then we kind of sort of can tap into that as well. So some people think thoughts just happen if you say, and so we can be really hard on ourselves. And unfortunately, I don't think that's necessarily the way to go. So when it comes to manifesting illness, it's not really just about that. I think for sure, if someone is very, very negative, continues to be, doesn't want to be any different, right, is really languishing in the drama energy of all that, I mean, they're definitely going to reinforce, if not create and cause illnesses that show up in the physical, the 3D world. And I think our illnesses are a way in which our bodies kind of give us another synchronicity to say, excuse me, maybe not, maybe don't think that, or maybe it's something different for a change, right? And so it's not sabotaging us, it's actually helping us. So our symptoms are helping us. And something else that I noticed more recently, and this may or may not jive with what your experiences are, but there are certain of us, I call them highly sensitive people, who actually may be born, if you will, into this current lifetime to actually, I don't want to say enjoy, I guess that's not the right consciousness word, but like to actually experience illness. So different concept. So they actually, are here to experience life. And if we judge life as good or bad, illness is bad, good health is good, then we actually negate the possibility that maybe we're just here to experience something, to evolve ourselves. And maybe even further, a lot of these people are more likely to have symptoms, if you will, like, for example, people that are highly sensitive have, in my experience, more autoimmunity, depression, anxiety, chronic fatigue, that kind of thing. Maybe it's not because there's negativity per se that they're creating. Of course, they can continue creating if they are there, but maybe they're extra sensitive to get these things because of who they really are, and their job here is to overcome them. And in overcoming them, they reinforce and or create what I call blueprints or positive morphic fields of already been done. So other people who may not have that level of responsibility can then tap into this bubble of already been done, and it makes it easier. So do you know the story about Roger Bannister, the first guy who
Broke the
did
5
the
minute.
mile? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was the first man to run a mile in 4 minutes. And before that, for the 20 years prior to that, scientists, doctors said, well, it's just humanly impossible to run that fast. It's just impossible. So, people sort of tried, but never did it. So once he did it, though, it was like some sort of barrier was broken. And in the 18 months after that, multiple people, now remember, 20 years, nobody did it, right?
Yeah.
After he broke that barrier, multiple people did it within the next 18 months. And now people do it all the time. Like it's like not even a thing anymore, but he was the first person. So one could say, well, it was mindset, right? Like he did it. So other people have the mindset to go, well, if he did it, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would argue it's actually energetic. I would argue that he actually set up a positive morphic field or blueprint. This is the work of Rupert Sheldrake, by the way, brilliant guy. He set up like a pattern in the universe, if you will, of already having done it. And so everyone else could then tap into that blueprint to be able to do it quicker than having to figure it out themselves. Okay. So it's just a little bit like deeper exploration of the mindset piece.
Okay, so that brings about two different questions. So you're saying that empathy is a disease because, we take on these feelings of everybody else and we're just kind of, we're pulling the energy from everybody else. It's probably not what you were thinking, but that's
what a lot of people who are empaths do feel like. They feel like there's something wrong with them. They need to be fixed. They've been growing up and learning, well, dad says, well, stop being so sensitive, grow thicker skin. And their, brother makes fun of them because they're always crying all the time. Why are you crying? It's just a commercial. Been there, done that. And, we feel like we're some sort of weirdo. Although I do also feel the weirdos are the ones going to save the world. But anyway, that's an aside. So it's actually sensitivity is not a disease, but what it is actually a superpower. So it's a gift. Here's the thing, though. If your gift is unhoned and unharnessed and unpracticed, then life could be quite difficult because you don't realize not only are you feeling other people's stuff, sometimes you're actually taking on other people's energies and stuff, whether that be emotions or other energetics. And sometimes you're even automatically healing it for them, whether or not that's your job. So for some people where it is their job, and I know that I've had a job, for example, healing energetically Mother Earth in different, countries, and even possibly, I can't prove it, of course, but preventing war, nuclear things happening. What'll happen in the past is that I will get some sort of signal in my body that something is off. Now, the old me would just assume there's something wrong that I did or said or thought, right, that caused this pain or illness or whatever. But I learned that because of my responsibility levels, I need to ask, whose stuff is it? So there's a way in which we teach our, students, actually it's even in the book, we do divine muscle testing and I check in. And in the past, I was really shocked that a lot of the times, most of the time, actually, whatever symptom I was quote unquote manifesting in my body was actually a sign that something was happening in some area of the world that needed urgent help. So I was this empath, if you will, for Gaia. And so I would do the correction directly on Gaia, not on myself, on Gaia, and the symptom would go away. So you see how it gets a little bit complex sometimes with certain people. It's not to say that everybody has that role. And now I'm no longer a direct empath for Mother Earth. In other words, I may do world healing, but my body does not necessarily automatically manifest illness that the Earth is going through, that part of my job is over. So it can be kind of interesting to ask that question. So being an empath isn't a disease per se, but dis-ease is really, at the end of the day, an imbalance in our perception of what it is that's going on in our bodies, and knowing what are we doing to respond or react. We prefer to respond rather than react to these set of symptoms. And sometimes healing does not necessarily mean an absence of symptoms. And that's a real, common myth.
Okay, we'll say that brings me to my next question on pertaining to your book. What are the practices that you give your people, such as ourselves, that will take on other people's feelings, and we just can't just, strongly brush them away. They just kind of hang on us. The person that gave us the shit is now walking away feeling all better about themselves because they just unloaded it onto somebody else. And now we're sitting there with this energy, stuck with it. You say it can be tailored, but we've both been in so many situations where someone has come and unloaded on us, and then we're just left with this heavy feeling like, oh God, now I've got
the rest
problems.
of your day's kind of ruined, and you don't know how to get out of that.
Yeah, that's a really, really great question, and really vital for our own well-being, the well-being of our families, right? Because we can't be our best selves if we're not ourselves.
Right.
And so in the book, we talk about a couple of different strategies. The main one, which actually really, really works with manifesting automatically, because most of us would love to do that, right? Manifest what we want more automatically, is connecting to our inner wisdom. There's different names for it: source, inner wisdom, guru self, the 0-point field. There's all these different names, the God self. And the way that I've figured out, because I haven't really been a big fan of, sitting there with 60 minutes, eyes closed, in a mood, some sort of mudra and cross-legged meditating. It's just not me. I'm just up and about all the time. And so I used to make myself feel guilty about that. But I did discover that there's a way in which to tap into that 0-point field, where it's the field of infinite, possibilities. And that, when we can go there, when we can just be and vibrate in our true being state, then what happens is that anything that is not us starts to dissipate and, if you will, automatically heal. I call it auto healing. So when we're full of ourselves, we end up, there's no room for other people's stuff in our own field. So that is like our basic foundational way of doing that. That's chapter 4. It's called Stillness Through Observing Internal Movement. And if you want, in a few minutes after I explain this piece, we can literally do it, and then you can experience it and see what it's like for you. So once we get familiar with that being state, then we get to start to tell when it's us and when it's not us, which is really, really convenient. And then beyond that, if people are like, okay, wow, really heavy energy, right? And you're doing the exercise. I think one of the fastest ways to actually clear other people's stuff from an auric field is a tool that I call the Clearing and Protection Spray formula. So it's a freebie. People can go to clearingandprotectionspray.com. And what it is an energy infused video. And it's infused with multiple frequencies that help to dissipate negative energy, including negative emotional energy and other nasty energy, and give you kind of like a shield, at least temporarily. It's great in the home. In fact, I've had so many people use it for like Thanksgiving dinner, where normally people argue, things like that. Or they have a really touchy child who's upset all the time or angry, things like that. Aside from not letting them sleep with a cell phone next to their head, we have them spray the room. It actually helps to dissipate some of the negative electromagnetic energy as well. And the child can literally, like, overnight just be a completely different person, like sweet and kind. And the parents are like, what happened? And all they did was clear the negative energy that has accumulated. And yes, it's like dust. It can accumulate in a space. In fact, let me just share with you some data from my friends at Energy Tools International. There was a study that they did where they had really, really high level healers do clearing of a space. They had a lab where no one went in there and they just worked on the space, worked on it for 3 months. And then they had another lab where just, people do like blood tests or, nothing particularly exciting. Then they had a third lab where they actually did animal sacrifices. So what they did was they took petri dishes of cells. They actually damaged the cells, the petri dishes of cells under gamma radiation. So they damaged the cells purposefully, then put these petri dishes in each of these labs. So the idea was the healers were to send energy to heal those cells. Now, as far as I know, the healers just knew, lab 1, lab 2, lab 3. Okay. So they sent healing to each of the cells. And what was really interesting is after a while, when they looked at the survival rate of the cells, the ones that were in the clean room that they had, healed, 80% of those cells survived. The one where it was just a regular lab, but they were sending healing, to it this whole time, 10% survived. And in a dirty lab where they actually sacrificed animals, 0 survived. So we're talking about energy healers healing the same, damaged cells, but the environment made it so that in a dirty environment, we don't heal. So I think it's really important, and we bringing that up today, really important that we learn how to clear energy that is, sometimes it's our own stuff for sure, but other people's stuff from us, so we can be in the best optimal health energetically, which therefore translates, into physical.
So is that more protons, electrons leaving the body, transfer of energy back into the air and particles and things like that? Is that what would have fallen down and or protected or collected or killed or helped those petri dishes? Is that what you're saying?
Well, interestingly enough, in other experiments, not necessarily from these researchers, is that when they've looked at energy healing, where there's a healer and there's a target, whether that be a plant, a person, whatever, and they've put this person, place, or plant or target, or petri dish in a what's called a Faraday cage, so that no electromagnetic radiation can be exchanged between the healer and this other thing. Fascinatingly, they still heal. So it's not electromagnetic. Okay. So it's not electrons, it's not protons, it's actually the quantum level, which is what they call subtle energy. So subtle energy can be, basically it's all around us all the time. Some people may call it dark matter. We don't know fully, how to describe that in science. I mean, some people have tried, but there's something that connects all of us, no matter what the distance. So that's why, I can do healing for someone who's 3,000 miles away and they can feel what I'm doing immediately. Yeah, because in the quantum, there is no distance. There is no, number of kilometers, things like that. They've done the experiment where they've shot an electron 2 different directions, 14 miles, and they tickle this one here, and immediately the other one also moves, but there was no lag time at all. It was immediate. So that's, the quantum is very fascinating that way. It's not what we normally see, electrons, protons, and we think of movement and things exchanging. Not to say that there isn't some of that, but right. As far as the energy clearing spray goes, it can work on multiple levels.
Okay.
So you guys ready to experience this?
Yeah, let's try it.
Try it out, yeah.
Okay, great. So there's a couple of different ways of getting into that 0 point field. What we're going to start with is moving the body a little bit so that we have energy flow, because some people are not self-aware enough to actually feel the energy flow in their body. So that's why we move first. When people get more advanced, they actually don't have to move their body. Like, for example, I'm talking to you right now and I can feel the flow of energy in my body because I'm just paying attention. Okay. So I'm paying attention to you as I'm paying attention to my body. So I'm being while I'm doing. So that's a little bit more advanced. But when we start, we tell people this technique is called stillness through observing internal movement, or stellum for short. It's in chapter 4 in my book. We get the body moving first. So you guys can either shake your hands, or most people rub their hands together really, really, really hot. You can go ahead and do that. You can kind of, shake your body, or just kind of, Elaine's like, I don't know. Just do something so that you're moving. And then what I want you to do after that is just close your eyes for a moment. And then 3 steps, focus on the inside of your body. Step 2, feel any energy or movement or something that's going in the body. Now, most people, if they're shaking their hands or rubbing their hands, they'll feel something buzzing in their hands. Sometimes it'll go somewhere. And then the third step is just to follow it, follow the flow, where it goes. So just continue doing that, keeping your eyes closed at the beginning. Sometimes it's easier that way. And just noticing where you feel movement. Now, for some people, they just feel their heartbeat. Some people feel their hands. Some people feel it's like a buzzing sensation. And then notice if you have more on one side of the body and the other. No judgment here, just notice. Notice if you have more feeling or energy moving in the upper body versus the lower body. And as it diminishes, because you're not moving as much anymore, see if you continue following it, that feeling, and just more and more subtle. And then if you want to go a little bit more advanced, you can open your eyes and see if you can continue noticing that movement or feeling in your body. So let's get some feedback. Who wants to start? Where are you feeling it right now?
Well, I started because I did this with my hands, and I could feel tingling in my hands, and it kind of go out through my fingertips. But then I felt like the longer I sat, I could kind of feel it go up towards my arms, and felt a little bit more in my upper body. I didn't really notice anything in my lower body, but started
Nice.
out my fingertips and then kind of went up my arm.
Fantastic. Great. Awesome. And how about you, Lane?
Mine was all in the hands. It was from the wrist down. It just felt like, I want to say 2 fireballs, but it was just like a throbbing, pulsating energy in the palms of my hands and to the tips of my fingers, but it wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't coming back towards me.
Okay.
It wasn't
That's
going
fine.
out.
That's great.
As soon as I opened my eyes, it started to dissipate away. So I don't know whether my train of thought went to the object that I'm looking at, or just taking in, other senses around me kind of made it dissipate. But
Yeah, we have all of our different senses. We've got our vision and hearing, and of course, this one is kinesthetic, so it's touch. Then we got smells, tastes, all these different things. I call them the clairs because sometimes they translate into gifts that each of us have to some degree, but oftentimes not practice. Each of us tend to have a dominant gift. Like my dominant gift is sentience, so clairsentience, the ability to feel through the body. So for me, this exercise was the quickest, fastest way for me to get into a being state and not be in my head. So here's the thing. Sometimes you get interruptions of your brain going, you're not doing it right. And, things like that, right? But if you continue focusing on the body and just being curious, like, where is the energy now? And instead of, comparing or like, well, I'm not doing as good as Lani, or, you know what I mean? Like just being in there, when I open my eyes, I feel it less. That's interesting. Like when it becomes that curiosity, what happens is that the brain is so busy paying attention because you've asked it to do that. Even if it goes off and you go, oh yeah, oh right, where am I feeling it, right? So you're in that feeling mode. It may be, I don't know if you noticed it. I know this is a very, very quick tutorial, but just notice what you were thinking while you were feeling.
Say I was listening to your voice, and I felt the muscles in my forehead kind of twitching, and could tell by my eyes were dancing around, and I wasn't anywhere else but listening to your voice, and then kind of feeling the surge between my fingers or whatever. So
yeah, I mean, I just focused on that feeling going out my fingertips, and again, I was listening to your voice too, but there wasn't anything else I was thinking about.
So the whole idea, the whole practice is to get you in the now, right? So it's supposed to take your mind away from. My neighbor did a brilliant analogy the other day when he was describing his anxiety. He says, you see that bush out there? And he says, yeah, there's just a ton of branches coming off this bush. He said, when I take my meds, the bush goes to one stick. So it kind of brings everything back into just one focus and takes all these other things out of the equation. So this example that you just gave us, is it just to bring you into the now and just kind of make you feel one thing?
I mean, although I, love the books about the power of now and, all these different trainings, I never really understood it. And some of the techniques that people teach, I didn't really follow or didn't listen because their dominant Claire was different from my dominant Claire.
Oh,
Okay.
So for people that their feeling is their dominant gift, this is the easiest way. However, there is something that it's not included in the book that I did in a workshop where I call it, stoicism on steroids or stillness on steroids. So what you're doing is training your mind to pay attention to what it is you want your mind to pay attention to, as opposed to the plethora of a million other thoughts that it could potentially have. Because it's actually pretty challenging to think two things at once. It really is. But if you're focused on where's the energy in my body and just curious, where is it? Where is it now? Where is it now? Where is it now? Where is it now? And your mind is doing that, it's amazing how calm and quiet it could be. But if I tell my mind to shut up, it doesn't.
No.
I just can't for the life of me just tell my brain to shut up, stop thinking now, get it. It doesn't work. I have to get into the body. But there are other ways that you can use if you're more clairvoyant. For example, you could actually use sight and looking and focusing on the peripheral. So you can be looking straight ahead, but then focus on whatever's moving. And this is one of the ways that people can actually train their spiritual gifts or their clairs, is that, you can actually train yourself to look here. And my husband's actually really good at that. So he has seen all sorts of things that other people don't see. Now, because I'm so clairsentient, I'm always asking, well, what does it feel like? What is that? Is that a ghost?
Yeah.
Right? And then I muscle test, and we teach people how to do that in the book as well. And I figure out what it is or who it is in some cases. And other people can smell things. Other people can taste things. So we all have them. It's just a matter of what degree. But if we really pay attention to our senses fully, then yeah, we become fully present. And what's really cool about manifesting is your energy. And Carolyn Mace mentioned this. I really liked what she said. She said, if not all your circuits are in the present moment, you cannot manifest something in the future because you're not all here. You have to be all here in order to manifest a future. Because if your energy's in the past, here, you continue manifesting the past, right? But if you're if you're energetically here, if all your energy's in the now, then from this point, then you can manifest the future that you want. But you can't have all the dregs of your energy split off into 1,000 different places and expect to be able to be good at manifesting. It's really not possible. So that's the importance of bringing your energy into the now.
Okay. So you're saying we should all get a shrink and kind of get everything that's horrible from our past deleted that we don't know what's going on in the back of our heads. Which
actually the opposite.
The
Most psychiatrists and psychologists don't have that way. Their way is through the head. Our way is through the body.
Okay.
So the way to go past that is to go through in the body. So in other words, for example, and we do talk about this in the book called the chapter or subchapter Stoicism for masterful manifesting, how to manifest what you want by dreaming up what it is you want and feeling it in the body, but also how to shift negative stuff. So whether that be past stuff or whatever happened like today, it doesn't really matter. So if I'm like, for example, okay, I'll give you a solid example. Now this wasn't that hard for me, but it would be hard for a lot of people now because I'm well practiced. So my dad says to me, not long ago, he says, "Don't visit.
Oh.
I need to make sure that Canada is safe from you."
Okay.
Well, that's the inference, right? So I thought it was kind of funny, but I thought, okay, well, let me just feel in to see like how am I taking this, right? And I thought, well, I could take it like personally, right? He doesn't want me around, he thinks I'm a danger to, all of Canada, even though I think it, as a medical doctor and my knowledge, it's like not really true, but it's not going to, I'm not going to convince my dad, right? So what I did was I took that little bit of discomfort that I felt, that little bit of what people might label disappointment or anger or resentment or anything like that. And I went, okay, what does it feel like in the body? And I'm like, oh, okay, I feel a little something here. There's energy moving around, but there's a spot where there isn't energy. Well, isn't that interesting? To try to change it, just noticed. And then the funny thing is as I'm noticing, and now it gets really fast, so I can do it for just, a second or a minute, something like that. And then I start forgetting and start doing something else. What happens is that as I go back and think about that situation again, there's no charge because I've processed it through the body. So the body is where it's at. And unfortunately or fortunately, I mean, in the past, I have great respect for psychiatrists and psychologists and social workers who do the counseling, and people feel heard and they get that feedback, and that's wonderful. And now, because energies have quickened on the planet, we can actually heal a lot more stuff faster by going through the body, and as opposed to talk therapy, for example. So there are many different ways that we can transform and transmute our past much faster now than even 10 or 20 years ago. It's fantastic. In fact, some of my training programs teach people exactly how to do that. In fact, I did one the other day in my mini healings. We do a monthly mini healing for our group. And I did something different this month, is that I actually demonstrated the inner child flip transmutation protocol, where we actually have people look back at a pattern that they do not like in their lives and trace it back, if they can, to something, a theme from childhood, to think back, what is it? Is it that, I didn't feel I was good enough? Or was it I needed approval? Or I felt betrayed? Like in grade 3, my girlfriend, dissed me and kissed another boy, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
whatever that is. And we took that and we actually flipped it to its polar opposite energetically. And what's really cool is people have immediate, especially if they're clairsentient, they feel their body, they have immediate shifts on how they feel. And so we don't have to go to the shrink and spend, I don't know, tens of thousands of dollars for years at a time to go over our old stuff. We actually just need to bring it to the body and energetically shift it, and then it doesn't have to be there. It's fascinating how that can happen.
Kind of reminds me, we had a guest on here that what is her title? She's a functional health coach, and so she uses a lot of the things that you talk about, vibrations and muscle testing and all of that. And I remember when she was on our show, she said pick a part of your body that you feel discomfort, whether it's an achy muscle or a sore back, or if you have a stomach ache, and hold your hand on that spot. And we had to breathe until we either, I think
deep breaths until we yawned or
coughed or
I can't remember.
something.
Okay.
But
yeah, that's energy moving.
I think it reminds me of the exercise you just had us do, is because we had to just sit there and feel that thing that was bothering us or causing us discomfort. And we were able to, once that thing came out of our body through, a cough or a sneeze or whatever it was, we kind of noticed, wait, it doesn't really bother us anymore.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool. And it just reminded me of a lot of the things that you're discussing too. So I definitely think she would send me videos of, good vibrations to listen to if I'm having anxiety issues or, things like that. So, and I did find them to be helpful. So
yeah, it absolutely is. And it's so simple, yet incredibly profound. And as we tune into that, to the body, and just feel over and over and over again, even for like a few seconds at a time or a minute at a time, then what happens is your resonance becomes the guru you resonance, and your dominant resonance is that higher vibration, and that in and of itself attracts different events, if you will, to your life. And so things just become easier. I don't know about you, but I used to be very gung-ho, push, like I gotta make things happen, and I'd be like, got a to-do list to do, and I gotta make things happen, I gotta change the world, and but I was all in my head around that, like what I needed to do. I didn't understand it was about me being who I really was, and that in and of itself was the benefit. My first Reiki teacher said that, it's less about what you're doing, Karen, more about who you were being while you were doing. And I was like, I don't get it. But I do now. Now, because things are easier. I will literally, this is so funny, guys, but I'm sure you can do this as well. So I'll be like going, wow, I really need new underwear. So I'll be like, okay, well, I like this company. And so I'll say to the universe, send me a coupon. Thank you. But now it's so fast, right? I don't have to really do the whole meditation, the whole bit. Send me a coupon. And sure enough, usually within 7 days, oftentimes in 48 hours, a coupon shows up, and guess what's on sale? Underwear. So do this constantly, right? So you already know the skill sets. It's just like that consistency of day in, day out, day in, day
Yes.
out. And I just find the stillness through observing internal movement technique just really easy for me because I am a feeler. I tend to feel other people's emotions really well, things like that. So I might as well turn that talent on its head and use it for my benefit.
Oh yeah. I think that's where we struggle the most, is just consistency.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's most people, right? But after you get a consistent results, then you're like, oh wait, this is faster and easier. So maybe I should do this more often. And in fact, when I first started it, I read Dr. Frank Kinslow's book, The Secret of Instant Healing, and of course, the word "instant" got my attention.
Yeah.
So I did his technique, his 2-point technique called quantum entrainment, and it was very effective. And I knew that all I had to do was feel my body, and I would get to the same space. But what happened was the first 6 months I was practicing it day in and day out, and I was having all this amazing, sudden, seemingly success. I was more focused on my physical body, but on my, my business and everything, I just kind of exploded. And then guess what? I got busy and forgot to do it. I just forgot. I was just freaking busy. I was so successful, right? And then after a few months, well, actually, it was many, many, many months, I just noticed things were harder. I had to struggle more. There were more problems. Ended up, going to adult nationals figure skating. Did not win a medal, in the and I was like, what? Okay, I was just so used to winning gold medals. So I was like, what is different? This is different. And then I realized, I fell off the wagon. I just stopped doing the technique. I just kind of got lazy, not lazy, but I was just so busy for my success. I didn't really think about it. And then that really helped me get really, really consistent, because I'm like, okay, I can see a difference now between the easy way and the hard way. Thank you so much, universe. I am now committed. So now it's like, if I want something to happen, I just go into that being state, imagine it already done, and just continue that practice day in and day out, day in and day out, for a second, a minute, 30 seconds at a time. It doesn't really matter.
So does that start with appreciation? Does that start with thank you for this, thank you for that, thank you for
No, not really. It just starts with feeling your body, at least for me. That's all I do, is I feel my body. Like, for example, sometimes I'll be like, wow, I feel a lot of energy going down my hands, and I won't judge it. I'll just go, that's where it is. Or, wow, I don't have much going down my left leg. I might be talking to someone. I may be, writing copy for a newsletter. I mean, whatever it is I'm doing, if I can practice being while I'm doing, everything goes smoother, things work out better. I seem to have more time in the day, which is really odd. But just in general, life is easier and better. So, I say, Lane, you're like super, super smart. So, you use that left brain really well. So then it's like, how do we get that left brain to be used for you, so you can just be, so you can just feel your body moment to moment in time, and not necessarily think, oh, am I doing it right? Or, is it supposed to be like this, or that kind of thing. So less about the thought and more about the body.
Okay. Let's say it's in the form of manifesting things. What do you typically prescribe to people as the way to start their journey down that road? Because I can imagine a lot of our listeners right now are probably listening to this going, oh God, this is all woo-woo crap. I'm not going to sit still and do whatever you guys are telling me to do.
Oh, who said you had to sit still?
I know.
You kidding me? You're kidding me? Best skating I've ever done is what I'm being while I'm doing.
We've been talking on this for at least, over a year.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know what you prescribe, either through your book, or, do you start, when I asked you earlier, do you start with the thank yous? You said you start with the body. What happens after that? You start with, thank you for my healing. Thank you for the money I've already received. I'd like to receive more. I mean, what's the process after you've found yourself where the energy is in your body?
Well, there's certainly nothing wrong with any of those practices, and they're very, very helpful. However, I like fast and I like speed, and that's just my personality. It's like the quickest, fastest way to the end result. That's what I want to do. So it doesn't mean that I don't feel gratitude or purposefully do those kinds of things, or write down 10 things you feel grateful about, those kinds of things. But a lot of people are doing these things out of their minds and not in their bodies. So the fast, quick way is go through the body. So what that means is we do have a chapter in the Sensitivities or Superpower book called Stone for Masterful Manifesting. So you're literally taking that practice where you feel your body, doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, just noticing the vibration within. And then you're applying it specifically to manifesting a specific outcome. In this chapter, we teach you how to do that. So what you're really doing in short is that you are setting up a scene of your ideal future reality, the way you would like it to be. Now, some people are more clairvoyant than others, so they see more in their future. Other people have to go with their hearing because they're clairaudient. Some people will go with smells or taste because they're, more essence or clairgustance. And then those of us that are clairsentient, we feel. So all of us have all of these gifts, but some of us have more than others. So I tend to be more clairsentient, clairvoyant. So that's my dominant. So I'll create a picture. For example, I created a picture, and this is how I won so many gold medals in adult figure skating, is I'll create a picture of me skating with my partner or alone, and about how it feels to be in there and skating smoothly, and the audience, appreciating and clapping, and I'm having so much fun, and I'm giving so much love from my heart. And, actually I'm skating right now as I'm talking to you. So, it's easy for me to go into that. And it's a huge contrast. In 2004, where I was like into chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. I was really into this negative space. I had all these expectations of how my nationals should be, and it was completely the opposite experience. Like, people couldn't show up, my support team couldn't be there. I was relegated to the other rink where they didn't have video. I'm like, really? After all this practice, and I was pissed. I really was. Yeah. And then realized, that fast forward, many years later, realized it was really about the being. So I began to envision it and see it and feel the success. In fact, one time I was driving home. I still remember exactly where I was on the road, driving home and doing my whole program in my head. And I am so grateful. There's so many people there. It's so fun. We did this is the year later. I did an amazing job. Perfect, and I was tears running down my face. I was so happy to the point where I was like, I don't have to skate it anymore. Like, it hadn't happened yet, but I felt like I was done. Yeah. And my husband and I we did this before our first pairs, where we went to the podium. And we stood on the podium, nobody was there. And I said, okay, we're going to pretend there's tons of people here. There's lots of cameras flashing, and we just won. So we stood on the number one, and we were like, yeah, yeah, right. We're kind of, pretty nutty. If anyone were looking at us, like, there's nobody around, right? Like, what are these people yelling about? And we skated, and we made a lot of mistakes. And I'm like, oh, well, so much for the gold medal, right? But the funny thing is that the other teams, their mistakes were small, but we didn't realize that because of the rules. And we did watch the video afterwards, even though I fell on my butt. Okay. And James messed up something, and he was his first time, so he was really nervous. But we won a gold medal. I'm like, how the heck does that happen? We messed up so badly. But when you watch the video, you can clearly see we were faster, we were more synchronized. It was a better performance and all these different things. But that was the universe saying, you did good, kid. Keep going. So really, it's about practicing being in a future ideal reality, but in your head and in your body. So you're thinking of it, but you're also feeling it in the body. And if you get bored, because I get bored really easily when I think about the same scene, pick another scene. So one scene, you guys are in Tahiti, okay? Having, having your nice little pineapple drink and everything, and it's sunny, and you got the sand, you got the waves, and then another, you might be skiing in Aspen. Or another, you're in front of, your beautiful tribe, and there's like 1,000 of you in a room, and they're like, hey, Lani, they just love you. Like, and the cool thing is there's two of you, so you could co-create whatever scene you want together and share your individual experiences. And just doing that even for a few seconds a day is hugely helpful. So every person that's listening to this, you can do this. This is not rocket science. It's just a matter of consistency and commitment.
It's funny because I feel like, everybody starts a new year. They've got all these new goals and resolutions, and, you hear people talk about their vision boards and things like this. And, do you come across a lot of people that use a vision board and they think that's going to help them manifest, but they don't follow through with the feeling in the body? I've read a couple books lately and they've talked about that feeling that you can't just say it out loud. It's not enough to just say it out loud. You have to truly feel it and put yourself in that moment of feeling whatever it is you want to actually be able to manifest.
Right. It's just a faster way. I think the vision
Yeah.
boards can be really helpful because I'm very clairvoyant, so I'm very visual as well. So I
Okay.
like colors, I like
Mhm.
scenes, things like that. Of course, some of the scenes in my mind are just, that much better than whatever I can, get in a magazine and paste on
Right.
a piece of paper. But I still have some of my old vision boards, and pretty much all of that has come true. So it's not to say they're not useful, but the usefulness of it is to bring that vision in, and so that you could be in the body and feel that. So it's an assist, if you will.
Okay.
Because we have found in studies that if someone, for example, looks at nature, that healing is faster. So even if in a hospital setting, I can't remember who did the study, they had patients, outside their window was just like a brick wall,
Yeah.
and other patients they actually had pictures of nature, but not real nature, just
Okay.
pictures of nature. And what they found was the people that had pictures of nature, they actually did better. They got out of hospital earlier, they did better. And so by using our senses in a positive way, it can all help. That's why some people, do music, right? Like when you watch a movie and there's this big, this amazing music, and
Yeah.
and then people's, things start revving up in their bodies. So whether it be smells, like, or music or sounds, I mean, it can all help. And even when you talked about voice and saying like affirmations or saying
Yeah.
something positive, here's the thing: every word has a resonance. Unfortunately, a lot of times we say things that we don't realize are counteracting what it is we say we want. And being careful of our language is something I'm practicing right now.
Yeah.
And my husband's really good at we'll catch each other, kind of saying negative things, because that is frequency. It's not like immediately you're going to manifest something negative. No, we're
Right.
usually by that point, when we're that fast in manifesting, we've got it down. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like people don't have to worry about the occasional, oh, I thought it's a negative thought, or oh my gosh, that slipped out of my mouth. Just correct it. Just go, oh, cancel.
Yeah.
What I meant was, and then you say this, and then when you feel it in your body, like you can, let's just try something real quick. Everybody that's listening to this is really, really quick. So close your eyes and just say, I am powerful. So go ahead and say that and feel your body, what it feels like. I am powerful. One more time. I am powerful. Okay, now temporarily say a different sentence. Just say, I am weak. I am weak. One more time. I am weak. Feel that, what that feels like in the body. And then say, I am powerful. Again, I'm powerful. So you can open your eyes and then give me some feedback what that felt like in your body, the contrast of those two things.
You
Get
got a big
something?
smile. I did.
Yeah.
What'd you get?
Every time I said I'm powerful, I got like right here in my chest towards the front. Like it was just like this. Every time I
Nice.
said it in my head, it was like
Yes.
this surge going up and
Yes.
up and forward. And when I said I'm weak, it was on the backside and it dumped down. I am weak. And it just kind of fell down the middle part of my back. Like it was just like
Beautiful.
dissipating.
Beautiful awareness.
Yeah.
Is that about what you had?
Yeah, mine was in my chest and I just kind of felt like it puffed up a little bit and got bigger. And then when you said I'm weak, kind of felt myself retract in to myself a little bit.
That's exactly it. Well done. Well done. And so when we say things that are not for highest and greatest good or vibrationally, it tends to be a constriction. And when we do say things and verbalize things that are for our highest and greatest good, it tends to expand us. And that's one of the ways we can tell, what comes out of our mouth, whether that is helpful or not helpful. And the most important thing, though, is not to be hard on ourselves about we didn't do this right, or, oh, I wasn't consistent, or, oh, I forgot to do my being exercise, or, oh, I'm terrible. I'm never going to manifest. Oh my gosh, I said bad thing to my mother. I'm in big trouble. Now I'm going to manifest terrible things, right? Like, is not to get down on that road, because that's, again, the mind going, and just getting into the body. So even if we start getting negative or self-critical, we can go, what does that feel like in the body to be self-critical? Interesting. Okay. Right. And sometimes by that time you're like, what was I thinking? Because you don't, it's gone. It's gone. Oftentimes it does it without trying.
I'll say the big takeaway that I take away from everything we've talked about today is that I think a lot of people, when they've, or at least I can't know the statistics, obviously, but people who have read The Secret and people who have read up or heard us talking about manifesting, it's not just a prayer or a mantra. And like you're bringing to light today, it's a feeling. It's something that's in your body, and the techniques that we were just using totally brought that to light. The people that have dismissed the book and or dismissed this whole thought process, I've spoken to them before, and they say, that's kind of hokey. You know, my wife does that. And there's got to be there still has to be a component of get your butt off the couch and get moving towards something. So I don't really know where I'm going with my point with this, but I wanted to get across that it's not just like a silly prayer that you say to yourself every day.
Well, actually, you're going right into the next bit here, which is really, really good that you mentioned that, because one of the biggest critiques of The Secret, and of course, it's a movie, right? I mean, it's like, changing people's consciousness and awareness and practices takes a lot of practice and coaching often, and guidance, right? Which is what you guys are doing too on your awesome show. So the critique is like, well, you can't just go omity, 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 in your couch and $1,000 is going to just land in your lap.
Right.
Well, at least not in my current reality. But here's the cool thing. When we actually do the work, and put the time into it, especially that time in the body, is that things will start shifting in our quote unquote outer world that starts reflecting that. And then we have an opportunity to take divine action on that. So for example, somebody might go, okay, I really hate my job. So I'm going to imagine, I have a great job and I get a promotion, maybe they can't decide what they want to do, but they say they imagine a promotion and they're sitting in Florida on the beach, or their vacation, right? And then 2 days later they get fired. And they go, what the heck? Right? I just asked for more money and I just got fired. I asked for something better and I got fired, right? But that's the universe helping you out.
Mm-hmm.
Going, is this what you really want? Okay, you seem pretty solid on that. I'm going to help you out with that. So the contrast will show up and then you decide, okay, now what, right? So you go into stillness, you go into that, in my case, stillness through observing total movement. And you just, even with the question, go, now what do I do? Right? And you just feel your body, feel your body, feel your body. And what'll happen sometimes, your brain is so busy, focused on your body, that you'll just have a little boop, do this. Or boop, why am I thinking about that person? Right? Like you'll just have a very subtle sign that probably was always there, but we didn't pay attention to the body. So our brains are going blah, 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 blah. So it's like our guidance comes in those quiet spots, which we quiet by going through the body. And I can't tell you how many times I've solved problems this way, because I'll be just like, oh, I don't know what to do about this issue. Right. And I'm like, okay, be in the body. And then all of a sudden I'll just be like, oh, I feel like doing this. And I'll just do something, not even thinking it was connected. And then it comes out like, OMG, this is the solution. Oh. Cool. It's a great way to find your keys too when they're lost.
I need to remember that.
Noted. Let's say I think we could both share experiences like that.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, okay, well, I don't know what to do. And then all of a sudden just this little thing just goes right across your brain. You're like, oh, I'm going to chase that rabbit. And, it takes you to the right path.
It's subtle.
Yeah. It's really subtle if you're not paying attention to it, which is our problem, is that we don't take the time to sit and think about things. Now, putting into practice what you've taught today, I think has just been a complete mind shift for me, because I've always been very attuned with all my feelings as far as senses, smell, taste, hear. I'm very attuned to just about everything. I'm very pay attention to a lot of things.
Nice.
So if I've got any piece of my body that's in pain or whatever, I'm doing a mental check on it. Where's that from? Where did that come from? What am I feeling right now? So I've never gone this route as far as the manifestation route. So actually stopping, feeling where the energy is, that's just exciting for me, because it's a totally different avenue that I hadn't even thought to explore. And it's just crazy to think that I've been so in tune with my own body for so long.
But you haven't used it.
Never
for
used
this
it.
way.
Never used it down this avenue. It's just,
It's a fantastic tool. Well, great, good for you. It's just a switch, right? It's just a
Yeah.
switch going, oh wait, I already do this. I'm just going to apply it
Yeah.
in this other way and see what comes out of it.
And
There's so many.
have been able to do the whole meditation thing. We've
Yeah.
tried and tried. So I think this is going to be a great alternative to that for both of us.
yeah.
Well, it's nice too if people have, children, and I have a lot of folks that have grandchildren, and they start teaching them to be in their happy place, and children are just very open, so they don't have as much mind frick, if you will,
Yeah.
to prevent them from just trying it out. And one of my clients, she was, I think, 10 at the time, just having horrible meltdowns at school and allergic to everything. But she was highly sensitive, and so was her father. And so we had mother and father, on the sessions. We didn't have her on there, but we were doing healing sessions. And I was saying, okay, well, like you to practice it too. Yeah. So they practice it, and I said, teach it to your daughter. And I, gave them a resource. Frank Kinslow, who I mentioned before, has something for children called Martina and the Ogre. So it's a storybook, but it kind of teaches them how to get into the same space using a children's story. And so they started that, and they started practicing, and, there are many visualizations that we, can teach. And this young person was able to realize in her life that she, the meltdowns just stopped. She got better and better and better from allergies. And even when she was having an allergic reaction, she would say to her parents, okay, I'm feeling some swelling in my tongue right now. I'm going to go into my happy place. And they would watch her, right? And she'd go to her happy place. Okay, it's done. It's gone.
Oh my God.
And then she'd just move on and do something else. It's like, wow. Amazing. Yeah. So please, people who are listening in, please teach it to your children, your grandchildren, whichever way you feel is, best for them. You don't have to necessarily take my, this whole thing, although they really love jumping up and down. They really love that. So I get to jump up and down. This is great. Yeah.
Well, very cool.
Awesome.
I'll say it's been a complete pleasure talking with you today.
Yes.
I knew when I saw the manifestation thing in your bio that we had to talk to you, and I looked you up, and this was months ago, and we finally connected with you. I'm so thankful that you were on the show today. And
yes, thank you.
Always nice to talk to someone that has the same belief as we do and puts it into practice in a different way. We'll be sure to include your book in our notes, and you've presented a couple different times in this. Is there any other resources that people could use or that you would recommend, or where could they find you? Or
well, actually at KarenCan.com, which is just my website, we do have a link to the book bonuses at the very top. So if people purchase the book, whether it be from Amazon or whether it be through ebook through my website, they can put in on there like their order number, and it'll actually sign you up for those gifts. And those gifts include some MP3s, MP4 trainings, MP3s from not just myself, but some of my best healer colleagues, healer and wellness colleagues as well. So that's really, really fun. It's about $1,000 worth of bonus gifts if they buy the book. And then we also have like our own little community, so people can ask questions, things like that. And we're always doing free stuff. So if they're already on the mailing list, which they would be if they bought the book, we have mini healings that we do every single month for those that kind of are into that kind of thing, energy healing. And then we often have free telesummit interviews and things like that. We're constantly giving to our tribe because we really, really love to do that. So we did mention the clearing protection spray formula. So in the back of the book, there's actually listed pretty much all my freebies. So it's called Next Steps. So we have the clearing protection spray formula, the sensitive soul empowerment guide, the stillness on the fly, which is the STOM training we really, really quickly went through today. But we have the different levels of that, of sophistication that's in that training, and that's all free. So people can get that. It's all in the back of the book.
Very cool.
Very cool. So our last notes, we'd like to tell everybody that not all of your issues are mental. They could be right there in your body. You have to just observe them and just let them through. They could just be hanging on you like a gremlin.
Yeah.
Just have to focus on it for a minute and then just acknowledge it and just let it go. So
yeah, the only way through is in.
Yes.
I like
Yeah,
it.
thank you so much for having me on your show. It's been a great
Thank
pleasure.
you. It was a
Thank you.
pleasure. Have a great rest of the day.
You too.
Thank you.